welcome to today's show, Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Burgess, passionate, inspirational speaker, author, poet, and entrepreneur. Good morning, and welcome to Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. Thank you for joining me this morning. Today is Wednesday, January 31st. I want to give a big thank you to those of you who are listening today all around the world. I'm delighted and so grateful that you tuned in. I sure hope you're enjoying a fabulous day and that you're having a fantastic week. Because you know what? In the grand song of the universe, life is very, very short. It's short and sweet and very precious. So, I hope you're making a difference in your own life, because when you do, you also make a difference in someone else's life. Now, a lot of folks want to make their life count for something, and they ask me, Dr. Gloria, how do you do that? It's very, very simple, really simple. You make your life count day by day, step by step, moment by moment, every single day, 365, 24/7. That's what Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count is all about. You can learn more about Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count by visiting the Gloria Burgess website. That's Gloria, B as in boy, URGESS.com. That's the Gloria Burgess website, GloriaBurgess.com, or by visiting my Facebook page. That's Facebook.com/DrGloriaBurgessPhD/. Now today, I want to talk with you about one of my favorite topics. It's all about daring to wear your soul on the outside, daring to live out loud. Specifically, I'm going to focus on an individual who has stepped up, who said, you know what? I want more in my life. I want to be more, I want to know more, and I want to serve more. I hope this story about this individual who transformed her life will inspire you as it has inspired me. And if you're inspired, I will share more about how you too can make that same kind of shift in your life. Later in today's program, I'll share some resources with you so you can do exactly that, so you can equip yourself to make the kind of difference in your life that you will hear about in this inspiring story that I want to share with you today. So once again, folks, today's focus is daring to wear your soul on the outside. It's all about daring to live out loud. So it's time to sit back, relax, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, or get yourself a nice cool glass of water, put your feet up, and relax in your favorite chair. And don't forget your notebook or your pen and notepad, because you're going to want to take some notes today. We're going to have a great time. Now, before I jump into today's show, I want to just take a moment to welcome you. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Dr. Gloria. This is Legacy Living, Make Your Life Count. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are joining my show, or if you're joining Talk Network Radio for the very first time. You're in for a real treat. I'm excited to have you listening in today, and I'm deeply honored that you've allowed me to be part of your day, so you can be inspired by the ideas and resources to make your life count. Today's program is all about daring to wear your soul on the outside, or, as some people say, daring to live out loud. It's a very important topic, so you can enjoy the life you love, a life of joy and a life of service. One of my favorite poets, Muriel Rukeyser, reminds us that the world is not made up of atoms. The world is not made up of atoms. So if it's not made up of atoms, then what is it made of? Well, I'm so glad you asked. It's made up of stories. I just love that. Now, let's just think about that for a moment. No matter where you live in the world, you hear stories, right? You hear stories from the time you're born. You hear stories as a little babe in arms. You hear stories told around the dinner table or around the hearth, stories when you go to school, in the lunchroom and in the hallways, stories when you're ready to leave school, when you're ready to graduate and perhaps move on to college. And then when we apply to college or university, they ask us to share stories about why we want to go there, right? And what we hope to accomplish. And then once we arrive, we hear stories about that college or university. And then more stories as we move through our studies and into the workplace. And you know what? Even there, we hear story after story after story. So, stories then are a very big part of our lives. So much so, we don't even realize their presence or power in our lives. Did you know that stories are how we make meaning, how we make sense of our world, how we chart and navigate the many different waters of our life? They help us move through the many moments, hours, and days of our lives. In many cultures all over the world, stories are actually revered as medicine. Yes, stories as medicine. Now, what exactly does that mean? In fact, stories are called medicine and revered as such because they help ground us. And when we lose our way, as we often do in this fast-paced, ever-evolving world, stories are the medicine that enable us, that help us to come home, to help us come back and realign with who we are. They help us come back into harmony with who we are and whose we are, who we belong to. Now, this is true whether we're talking about an individual person, a family, a community, a team, or an organization. I was with a client just a couple of days ago, and our specific focus was on team building. Now, the resources we used for team building to get us from here to there were stories. In other words, we looked at what stories needed to be surfaced and made visible so that we could become intentional about doing what was necessary to become the best possible team, right? To put our best foot forward, so to speak, to do the best work in serving our stakeholders. Stories are very, very powerful medicine. Poet and author Mark Nepo reminds us that stories are small doses of what matters. And he says, it is the telling that releases the medicine, the telling that soothes our pain and shares our joy. I love that. I'm going to repeat it. He says stories are small doses of what matters. And it is the telling that releases the medicine, the telling that soothes our pain and shares our joy. Now, in the language Kiswahili, the words habari gani mean, what's the news? Or what's happening now? Habari gani, what's the news? Or what's happening now? In the next little while, I will share with you small doses of what's happening now, of what matters in the lives of ordinary people, including people who are very close to me. In fact, I want to share one particular story with you today. And this story that I'm going to share breathes the timeless universal truths of what I call the 7 sacred promises. They are truths that mentor us in ways of being that are older than time. Truths that breathe just beneath the surface of our ever-busy lives. They're truths that when we make them visible in our life, we can actually draw on them with conscious intention to shape our daily choices, actions, and decisions. So what are the 7 sacred promises? They are gratitude, faith, love, vision, integrity, creative action, and legacy. Now, you hear me talk about these promises every week on this show in one way or another. Today, you will hear more about them through the inspiring story I want to share with you. This story begins with a small dose of what matters. And it's taken from some of the big themes in one of my poems. And that poem is called Song to Myself. Now, all of the stories that I'm going to share with you over the next several weeks, and this story in particular, are about people just like you and me. How is that? Well, because these people care. They care about themselves, they care about one another, and so do we. We want to leave the world a little bit better off than the way we found it. And as stewards of the future, we dare to wear our souls on the outside, to be in right relationship with ourselves and to be in right relationship with others. As instruments of soul, we sound the way for others in our immediate circles and beyond. Did you know that you are a magnificent story? And as you live your life, you're actually painting. You're painting on the canvas of your soul. At the end of my sharing these inspiring stories over the next several weeks, I'm going to invite you to give voice to your own story. So you too can respond to that very important question, Habari Gani, what's happening now? I'm going to invite you to draw from the deep wellspring and transformative power of your own true voice. Until then, I trust that you will be moved by these stories of hope, radiance, and celebration. As you encounter each person, each individual soul, I trust you'll feel that sweet, sweet shimmer of your own story and hear the resonant power and the powerful medicine of your own true voice. That you will bask in the joy and inspiration of these stories, allowing them to illuminate your sacred life path. I also trust that you will accept the gifts they offer so that you can pass these stories on and faithfully serve others by lighting the path for someone else. So now, I invite you to get cozy, grab a cup of tea or your favorite coffee or a cool glass of water, and join me. Join me by the hearth. Join me at the fire to hear the good news. I will begin each story as I have others, with a brief excerpt from my poem, Song to Myself. I want to know if you can look into the eyes of the young woman who sleeps with fear each night, the one who dared to walk away from the hands that pummeled her. I want to know if you can share her pain.